Here we go. We are live. Hi, everybody. I'm just trying to find my little screen at the bottom. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to our Offering Tree webinar. Today, we're going to talk all about Facebook and Instagram ads with Megan Upperman, who is here with us today. Megan is actually almost part of our Offering Tree team here. She is related to our marketing lead, Elena, which I'm telling you now because you're going to see it throughout the call, these similarities that these two have. We're really, really excited to have Megan here because she runs our Offering Tree ads as well. So if you've seen those on Meta, you are in the right place to learn from an absolute expert. So as we get started here, let us know that the chat is working. Can you drop in the chat where you are? I can see everyone hopping in. Hi, Ashley. Ashley Hagen's here. Yay. So yeah, tell us where you're tuning in from today. We want to know. We always want to see what kind of reach we've got and where everyone is around the world. And also, as we move through the webinar today, Megan is going to take pauses to answer your questions. So keep those questions coming, drop them in the chat. We will get to them as we go through. Oh, hey, Columbia, Missouri. Yeah, hey, Adrienne. There's lots of people commenting in the chat. So yeah, my name is Sinead, by the way. I'm part of the Offering Tree team. I am an Offering Tree user. I am a Meta ad user as well. I'm a yoga teacher, so I run my own little ads around here. I live in Calgary in Alberta, Canada. And if you are new to Offering Tree, I'll give you our little elevator pitch. We are an all-in-one software for yoga teachers, wellness providers, movement professionals, studios, all the way from people who are solopreneurs, who are just starting out, all the way up to multi-location studios. Our software can provide everything from a website to email marketing to your online store, everything that's within that. And we are really, really glad to have you here today. And if you wanted to get a discount and a free trial if you're new to Offering Tree, here is a link that you can use, and we're going to be dropping this in the chat as well as we go through. So without further ado, I'm going to turn off my screen share and hand you over to Megan and Elena, where we're going to learn all about this fantastic topic and how to grow our businesses with Facebook and Instagram. Thank you, Megan and Elena.
Awesome. All right. Well, Elena, should I just go ahead and get my screen shared and start presenting?
Yeah, get after it.
Okay. All right. All right. So here's my presentation. And Elena, can you see this all right? Great. Okay, so everybody, thanks for tuning in. I am super excited to talk about this topic. Yeah, we'll get into a lot of details, but like Sinead said, I'm going to pause periodically for questions rather than having you save them all for the end, because the last thing I want is to cover like how to build a campaign and for questions to come up that by the time we get to the end and I'm showing you kind of how to analyze things, you're like, oh, I got lost so long ago. I really don't know what you're talking about. So the goal today, there are no dumb questions. Please feel free to just ask anything that you have the couple of times that I do pause. Because there's, I'm fully expecting there to be lots and lots of questions. Okay, so let's get into it. We're going to talk about how to get started with Facebook and Instagram ads. And for those of you who have dipped your toes into it, there might be a couple things in here that you've seen before, but I highly recommend staying tuned for each of them, because there are plenty of ways for you to get into your ads and start running them, missing some of those foundational enablement pieces that are really going to help you succeed. So hopefully we'll have no wasted time for anyone, no matter what level you're at. So first, a little bit about myself. I'm CEO and founder of a company called Scratch Consulting. And basically what we do is small business marketing built for small business budgets. So we work with lots and lots of little mom and pop shops that have, they have a limited budget. They've got limited time. They've got limited, skills available to them. And what we really do is focus on, how can we plug into your team? Is there stuff you want to keep DIYing, but you need some structure and guidance? Amazing. Let us help get that structure and guidance for you. Do you want to get some of this off your plate and literally never think about it again? Also fine. We're happy to do both. And like Sinead said, we actually do handle Offering Trees meta ads as well, which is super duper fun. Go ahead.
Just gonna give a little testimonial here.
Sure.
We had maybe a couple Facebook ads running that were doing nothing for us. Essentially, we were just trying to do it and we're wasting our money. And we brought Scratch in, and we are like astronomically large percentage ROI based on where we were at before we started with Scratch. So highly recommend them for sure. Even though, and she's my sister, so I would give honest feedback also.
It's true. Yeah, she does.
I don't have
give
to be
honest feedback.
professional.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. Yeah, we love running Scratch. It's a really cool business to be part of. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. And I'll tell you specifically on Facebook and Instagram ads, boy, okay, I'm dating myself a little bit here, but I have been working in marketing for so long. I have great skincare, so you would never know how old I am. But really, I've been doing these ads for so long that the first Facebook ads that I ran, they were actually back when you could only boost a post, when boosting posts was a brand new feature. That's how long I've been working on these. So I've seen many, many iterations come and go. So let's dig into it. Today's agenda, here's what I'm going to talk to you about. First, everything that you need in order to get started with ads. Second, what makes a great ad as far as the actual creative goes. Third, how to set up your actual advertising account and your very first campaign, as well as how to measure your performance, and just some basic optimization ideas and how to find them in the data. I'm not gonna, really nerd out too hard for too long on the data piece, because that's something, once I kind of show you the ins and outs of what to look for, and we talk a little bit about like what your North Star metric is for knowing whether or not your ads are succeeding, we'll start with that. And then when we get to optimization ideas, we can really treat that as a discussion point. We'll really just kind of talk through ideas that come up. So let's get into it. Let's get started with Meta ads. So for anyone who's not already clear on this piece, Meta includes Facebook and Instagram. And that is the whole metaverse that they want to teach us about. So here's the things that you're going to need. First, you need a credit card that has enough limit to meet your intended ad spend needs. So that credit card is something you'll put directly into your advertising account, and it will basically charge you in the beginning, it'll probably charge you every $50 or $100 worth of spend. That number is adjustable at a certain point, but it's a little bit like having a credit card in the first place, where you have to prove to them that, they will charge this often and that those charges will go through and those things will work. And then they'll allow you to change that setting. So for anyone who's ever had their bank flag it as fraud because it charges every $50 and it looks like the same charge over and over again, that is a temporary issue, and you can change that in the settings once Facebook allows you to do that. The next thing we'll talk about is a website with a pixel added. I'm going to go ahead and assume that if you're ready to run Facebook and Instagram ads, that you have a website. That's a must-have, right? You got to have somewhere to send that traffic. We'll talk a little bit about pixel implementation. There's a chance, depending on what platform you're on, that you might want a little bit of a help from a developer. But if you muscled that site together by yourself and did not use a developer, chances are you can implement it yourself. So we'll talk about that when we get to that point. The other thing you're going to need, Facebook and Instagram business pages. Now, you can take a page you have right now. If for some reason it's set up as a personal page, there are settings that you can change to make it a business page. So you're going to want to do that. And then to also just make sure that they are linked inside of the Meta Business Suite. Now, that's one part that I'm not going to cover today, because we just had to decide at a certain point what fits in the presentation and what doesn't. So inside of this piece, there are some tutorials out there that are super duper easy, and I've got some linked there that'll just walk you through step by step where to go and how to make sure that those things are linked, so you can run ads in a way that has them connected, so they'll show up on both platforms. The next thing, you need a personal Facebook page. Chances are, if you've got a business page, you have a personal page because you need someone to be the administrator there. That holds up. Got to make sure you've got that. And then you'll also need a way to design ads. I really like Canva. Canva is a very lovely tool that is, almost universal at this point. Anyone who's managing social media that I personally have met is using Canva. So that's a great place to build ads. They've got lovely templates, and you can use the free version, and it's definitely going to do the job for you. So that's just a quick list of everything you'll need in order to get started. There are Also, a couple nice to haves that I'm going to throw out there. If you are on WordPress, there is a Meta for WordPress plugin that's going to handle your pixel implementation for you, at least the base part of the pixel. And then we'll talk later about setting up events. That is a godsend. If you are on any kind of a platform that allows you to automatically place a pixel, I love that for you. It's really going to help keep that process simple and make sure that you don't need to use a developer. If you do, however, it's a very small project. So, if you've got to pay someone to just get that pixel implemented, it should be very inexpensive for you because it's very, very simple, just a quick bit of code that pops into the header. The next thing, a nice to have is Google Analytics. I was the analytics manager of a marketing team for a long time. So I'll tell you, I find that to be a must have, but especially when you're in a small business, you're growing, you're new, let's call it a nice to have. You don't need it to run these ads, but boy, is it nice to have a source of truth. So you can see more information about how Meta is impacting everything else. Additionally, access to a spreadsheet tool. Google Sheets is free. I love it. Excel, also a great option, but especially when we're going to talk about how to build lookalike lists and, subscriber lists and things like that. This is a really, really great piece to have access to. So let's talk about what makes a great ad. I'm going to go through this checklist with you. So first thing, a clear purpose and a call to action. Sometimes you'll see ads out there that are, oh, go ahead, Elena.
I don't know if this was the right spot to stop for a question, but there was a question of what is the pixel, the Facebook
Oh,
pixel?
sure. Yes. You know what? I'm going to dig into a whole section about the pixel, and I'm going to make sure that everyone gets tons of information on it because yes, absolutely. If you've not run ads before, that information will go, yeah, we'll dig into that for sure. Okay, so what makes a great ad? Clear purpose with a call to action. So you'll sometimes see ads out there that are just a photo or a video or something that's really cool. But the really key piece is that not only do we need to make sure we're showing people what it is that we want to show them, but you literally need to tell people what you want them to do. So that's where the call to action comes in. Do you want them to sign up for a class? Do you want them to subscribe to your newsletter? Whatever it is that your goal is, you want to make sure you just call that out. Make sure you say specifically what you'd like them to do. I say keep the design simple. Make sure it matches your website. When they see an ad and then they click through onto your website and it's got the same colors, logos, fonts, and all that, that's going to help them build trust and keep something called the bounce rate low. A bounce rate, don't get intimidated by terminology. All that means is a session is considered a bounce if someone comes to your website and then leaves immediately after doing nothing. Think of it as your junk traffic rate, right? So if someone shows up on your website, we want them to stay, have a look, get comfortable, see what you want them to see. So having that stuff really, really matching, that's going to help you a lot. A strong attention-grabbing headline. We want to limit text content and focus more on the imagery or the video. That is a best practice. Sometimes you'll find when you're testing things out that sometimes something with a little more text in it might perform better than something that's just imagery. But again, you just want to limit that text content because really just based on Meta's algorithm, it's going to help you perform better. Also, you want to make sure that you've got at least two sizes, the square size and the story size. Those are both going to really help you make sure that your ad looks great everywhere that it shows up. Because you're paying for those placements, right? So you want them to have their best foot forward all the time. And a bonus, honestly, if you have it in your brand color palette, I highly recommend a really eye-catching color because imagine yourself being the person who's taking in these ads when you're scrolling on your phone at night, you're sitting on the couch and you've maybe been scrolling for 20 minutes and then all of a sudden you see something that makes you stop that scroll. You want to be that thing, right? So let's look at some examples. So Offering Trees made the lineup here. This is an ad that we built that has done really, really well for them for quite a while. Like I said, strong headline, streamline and grow your business with Offering Tree. Call to action, try it today. It gives a nice example. Here's some websites. Go ahead and start your class. So we get what is the product, we understand what we want them to do with it, and we understand what it is that the ad would like us to do. Lovely. Here's another person that we work with. This is a really beautiful, bright, eye-catching pink. Their brand palette is actually these blues, and they sell these wholesale pastry supplies. So what we do here is, amplify the flavors, ditch the chemicals. Their whole thing is that they're a clean label, non-GMO wholesale pastry ingredient. So this is their differentiator right out the gate. It's got this beautiful, bright, eye-catching design, and we want them to just go and learn more. Go into the website and just learn more about what the products are. Love that. Here's another option over here for a pet food company. Now you'll notice that they don't actually have a CTA button here. You can do this several ways. One thing that you'll know is that people aren't actually clicking these buttons. They don't click on the image itself. They're actually going to click on that learn more or whatever button it is that you set up underneath there. So for these people, we've been just using that actual CTA that's built in the platform and saving the rest of our text content for the actual information that we want to get across. So here's what those products look like. Here's kind of the idea that we want you to take away from them. Nice, clear, branded, super bright red, very eye-catching, really visually appealing, as much as like raw animal parts can be, right? So let's see here. I want to pause here and just check, does anyone have questions about ad creative? Looks like we're good. Okay, fantastic. All right, so we're just going to keep moving right through. So the first thing we want to talk about is how to set up your ad account. Now, I've got a really good tutorial linked right here that goes way in detail, and you can watch it over and over again as many times as you need to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly play a piece of this so that we can all just get a really good idea of it. I can't create an ad account for you in demo mode without actually creating it. So because I've done that a few times already, I'm out of the little trial options I have available to me. So let's just dig into this.
Is there supposed to be sound?
There is sound, but it's not like terribly useful. It's really
Okay,
just describing exactly what we're looking at. So now
cool.
she's just showing how to go ahead and add your payment information.
Cool.
Okay. And that's
Is there
that.
a link? Is there a link to that in your somewhere?
Yes, there's a link in the deck so people can watch this as
Awesome.
many times as they need to. And basically what
Cool.
she's showing now is just how to go ahead and link your pages to it.
Nice.
Yep. And the platform does a pretty good job of walking you through these things as you go. It'll stop you from moving forward if you've missed a step at this point. So this is nice to have. Yep. So she's just going to go ahead and add a page. She's going to put the URL in here. All right. And that's the basics of what I wanted to show you out of this tutorial. Basically, when you look at how to go ahead and just create that ad account, the steps are very short. But They can be hard to find, which is why I've included the video in here. If you need to go ahead and watch that over and over again just to get the couple of steps done, you're not the first person who's had to do it. So go ahead and use that as needed. It's very simple once you get started, and it will stop you from moving forward if you haven't done it correctly. So that's the good news. So getting your actual advertising account set up, you're going to create the ad account, you're going to add your payment information, and then you're just going to make sure that your pages, your business page for your Facebook and Instagram account are linked. That's all it's going to ask you to do. And then you've been set up as far as your ad account is concerned. So I know there were already questions about the pixel, and everybody, let's just take a deep breath. This feels technical. It's not as technical as people want to make it sound. So there's not too much that we need to know about this. But I am going to switch into kind of a live demo mode and show you a few things. But the basic steps, you're going to implement the base pixel code on every page. I'm going to tell you about what that means. Then you're going to use the auto tagging feature inside of your Meta ad account. Very easy. When we talk about auto tagging, it's very much just like a click and drop moment, like a Square site or anything like that. So there is a tutorial in here for when this deck gets sent out later. Feel free to watch this. But for now, let's go ahead and talk about what this looks like to do in practice. So here's the interface. To do your pixel, we're going to go into your events manager. So inside of your events manager, this is what this looks like. So when you go to create the first pixel under this create menu, that will be available to you here. Because I already have a pixel that I'm going to show you, we're going to just go ahead and skip the step of actually hitting the create button. But trust me, it'll be there, and all you have to do is create it. Here is where you can find that pixel ID. In case you use any automated tools, all they're going to want from you is that pixel ID. So like I talked about in the nice to have section, if you're on WordPress and you use the Meta for WordPress tool to set this piece up, basically all it's going to do is implement your base pixel code, and you just need this pixel ID right here. So what that means is it's going to give you a code snippet, so just a couple lines of code, and it needs to go inside the header of your website and just show up on every single page. Now, most of us only have one header on our website. There could be a blog or another area that has a different looking header. Just make sure you place that pixel in all of the versions of your header that you have. It's just going to fire once on every page and help you tie all that traffic information together inside the Meta interface. So that will come up when you press the create button on that pixel, it's going to show you that snippet right there. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is auto tagging. This is a feature that you're going to love. So once you get your base pixel applied and you go ahead and publish that on your site, it will show you here. It'll let you know if there are any problems or if traffic's not coming through. Feel free to consult any of those tutorials online, reach out to a developer, or check like the help center on whatever platform your website is built on. All those places are really great places to find more information if you're having trouble with the actual base code. But all that's going to measure is page views and make sure that you can see all the traffic you're putting together. So what I'm going to show you is a really cool feature. This is a newer feature just from the last couple of years, but it's really cool. So if you turn on auto tagging, then what you're able to do is you can open this event setup tool. And let me just grab, I'm going to grab this website link just so I can show you in real time what this looks like. Okay. It's loading. Bear with me. Oh, and of course, the website that I wanted to show you is having troubles today. Classic. Hang on, we'll give this one more try. Okay, here, I'm going to switch modes. I'm going to choose another account. And this is why I had all my links loaded and everything ready to go before this presentation. You'll notice one of the common things if you read a lot of threads about this online, you'll notice that a lot of bugginess is present. So hang on here. Let's just give this a moment. Okay, I'm going to adjust. We're going to make a quick pivot. So I'm going to show you a different type of previewing tool. What I'm going to do is let's use this one. So I'm going to just put this in preview mode just to show you an example. This is the Google Tag Manager preview mode. I don't want to throw too many things at you, but I'm going to just show you an example. Elena, can you see the debug window here, or is it just still showing the actual tag manager?
I saw the debug window.
Okay, great.
But then you pressed continue.
Okay, got it. Here.
Right?
Yes, I'm going to change
Okay.
to, I'm going to show my entire desktop. All right, can you see that whole desktop?
No. We still see your pastry star Google Tag Manager.
Okay, let's try this.
Now we see your whole screen.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so here's what I'm going to show you. This is just a different example of what this can look like. So this is done through Tag Manager, but I'll tell you the one through Facebook is very similar, but even simpler. So what this is going to do is it's basically going to say, hey, I'm going to preview these tags for you and allow you to go through and make clicks so that we can go ahead and tag them. So for this client, for example, you can imagine the value adds are going to be making a phone call or clicking the contact us form and going ahead to fill that out. So as I'm making these little test clicks here, I'm going to show you over here. So these tags are already created. If we were in the meta space, this would look a little bit different, but it would show you examples of what you can select. So what it'll have you do is go through your site and pretend you're taking these valuable actions of what you want people to do, subscribing to your newsletter, signing up for a class, making any kind of payment, whatever it is that you want your ads to actually accomplish for you, you go through those actions as kind of a mock activity, and it will show you all the things you're able to see here. And you basically just click them and you say, okay, yes, I'd like to make this a conversion action. You click that one, okay, yes, I'd like to make a conversion action. So I did not really want to show you a tool that we weren't going to use, but that's just an example of what that can look like. This didn't ever load, did it? No. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna stop here though. And I know that was not the ideal format, but who has questions about pixel related stuff?
There is a question in the chat
Great.
about maybe like detailing a little more the benefits of a pixel, of like implementing the pixel.
That's a really good question. Yeah, I love that. So what's the purpose? What are we doing with it? Why do we want to use it? The pixel, what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to tie all of your information that happens on your website back to your meta ads. So if I, as a user, wow, I see your ad, I love it, I want to sign up for this class that you're running, it looks amazing, I go ahead and click on the ad, I go to your website and I sign up for your class. Well, that's the goal, right, of our campaign is we want, okay, let's get more class signups if that's what we want to set it up for. So what the pixel does is it allows me as the person who's running Facebook ads to say, okay, I can see that this ad had this person sign up for a class. That's great. So number one, it tells me if things are working for me and touching my bottom line. But the other thing it does is it tells the meta algorithm who is the right kind of person for us. So if people start going ahead and signing up for these classes and doing that action that you set as your campaign goal, the pixel is basically going to tell Facebook like, hey, these are the kind of people that are doing this action. Why don't we go ahead and show this ad to people who look like that person, who have these things in common, who are doing the things that this person's doing, and that's going to help you see more success there. Any other questions we want to chat through?
Perhaps not at this time.
And we can talk through them again too at the end if anyone thinks of anything else that comes up.
Awesome.
Okay, so that's Pixel. Next thing I want to talk about is setting up an audience. So what we've covered so far, to recap, we've created an ad account, we've got our pages linked, we've got our payment information put in there, we've set up our Pixel so that we have all the data flowing and the ability to make sure that everything works correctly and optimizes for us. The next thing we need to do is the last step before building our campaign is thinking about who we want to show our advertising to. There's a couple of styles of audiences that I want to talk you through. So first one is retargeting audiences. This is actually why Offering Tree came to me for help with their retargeting campaigns. It's only one piece of their strategy, but retargeting is basically, hey, anyone who comes to my website and looks around, I want to show them ads just because they've been on my website. Amazing. The Pixel is going to tag people who've been on your website and allow you to create audiences that you can then use to build your campaign. So you can say, give me people who've been on my website in the last however many days, 30, 7, 14, 180, whatever you want. You can also say, hey, I have a landing page for an event. Why don't we say, let's retarget anyone who's been on the landing page for my event? Great, you can also do that. Additionally, we can talk about people who are converting. So saying, hey, why don't you show ads to people who have signed up for this class? Because I'd like them to consider signing up for this class or subscribing to my newsletter. Amazing. You can do that too. It's all done inside of the audience manager, which I'm going to show you in a second. You've also got lookalike audiences. So this is a really great feature to use when you're trying to expand the number of people that you're showing up in front of and really get your brand out in front of people. You can say, why don't you show my ads to people who look like my social media followers? Why don't you show my ads to people who look like my website traffic? Why don't you show my ads to people who look like my actual customer list? So you can go ahead and export, even if you've just got emails. Ideally, you get email, first name, last name, phone number, even like a zip code would be lovely. The more data, the better that match rate is going to be, that they can actually find those people. But even if you've just got emails, it's a really great place to start. You can upload any kind of a list, your blog subscribers, your actual customers, any of that stuff. And you can say, hey, Facebook, find me people who are just like these people. And it's a really great way to get your brand in front of just additional folks that you know are going to be big fans of yours. The other thing that I'm going to show you as well is we can talk about building audiences inside of a campaign. So retargeting and lookalike, these are things that we're going to create inside of the audience manager. But when you actually build a campaign, you can do some really exciting and interesting things too. You can target people who follow you on social media or engage with your posts. Even if you want to say, hey, people who watch this specific video, let's show this ad to them. Amazing. Otherwise, you can do, this is like the last bullet point on this page, but I feel like it's absolutely the most robust feature and my most highly used feature: interests, demographics, and geographics. So when we talk about this, you're able to say like, okay, show me people who are interested in yoga. Show me people interested in fitness. Show me people interested in homeopathic remedies. Like really brainstorm, think about your customers and think about what they're interested in. You can then restrict that based on their, age, gender, any of their kind of demographic info. You can also say geographic. So if you're hosting classes physically in a place, well, people are only going to drive so far, right? So if you're in Michigan, you don't want to show your ads to people in Wisconsin or Minnesota, right? You want to show them to people who are, say, maybe they're within 30 miles, 20 miles of your studio, depending on how densely populated the yoga studios in your area are. It's a really lovely way to do that. And I see we've got a question about list size. That's a really great question. I would always say the more data you can give, the more success you're going to have. But there's a caveat. So if you want to use that list, just target the people on the list, I would highly recommend trying to get at least 1,000 people on that list. The bigger, the better, right? But if you're going to use that list to create a lookalike so that you can say like, okay, here's 300 people, show me 5,000 people that look just like them, you can do that too. So if you're targeting the actual list of people and those are the specific people you want to talk to, I'd recommend 1,000 would be a good minimum standard. But if you're using it for lookalike, I believe the minimum is 300. Oh, and what percent lookalike do I recommend? That's a really great question. You can always experiment with this a little bit on your own, but I find, I never ever go above 5% because the criteria can get a little bit loose. I find, if you've got like a 1 or 2%, just as a starting place, it can be really, really successful and you can keep that criteria really tight. But for sure, I'd keep it under 3%. Yep, for sure. Okay, any other questions on this piece before we jump into a little live demo? Okay. So I'm not going to take too terribly long on this, but I'm going to show you some examples here. So in here, we've got audiences created that are like, for example, this is website traffic from the last 7 days on this site, all the way up through 180 days. You can go ahead and test your way into these, but I would recommend, a lot of people will want to focus on testing, but I say start by thinking it through logically. If you've got a limited budget and you don't have money to just test. Oh, thank you. I'm going to switch back to just the window. Okay. So if you don't have money to just test, I would highly recommend starting with what you can logically assume. So if you're thinking about, for example, how long back you want to set your retargeting window, well, think about what your customers are doing. Do you think 2 months ago they were shopping for a new yoga class and never made a decision about where they wanted to go? I don't know, maybe not. I would say, a great example is like, so I run ads for a pet food company. That pet food company, we know people reorder, it's raw food. So we know people reorder every 3 to 4 weeks. So I don't retarget people 6 months out. I retarget them 2 to 6 weeks out. That's like the gold standard for them because we know quite a bit about how often their customers order. So think through how long it takes people to make those decisions and try to limit yourself to that window as a place to start. You can always test from there, but especially if you don't have a ton of budget just for the testing, that's a really great place to go. I'm going to show you quickly what it looks like. So to create a custom audience, you can use any of these sources. So again, a customer list, you can upload a spreadsheet. You can also use your website. You can create based on your Instagram page or your Facebook page or any of these different options here. So for example, if you want to go retarget people from your website, this is what it looks like. You choose the data source as your pixel. You can say all visitors or specific pages, how much time they spent, or if they did any of these specific activities in here. And then you can set the dates. You can also include more or exclude more. So you can widen and narrow that audience. I know it's very tempting to want to get really specific really quick, but I highly recommend like start a little bit more general than you think you need to, because giving a larger size audience does give Facebook's algorithm the ability to do some of that optimizing for you. If you need to, you can always go in and tighten it up, but I always say start a little bit more broad than you want to end up, and that should help. Additionally, when you're looking at lookalike audiences, the question that came through about the percent lookalike recommended. So in here, you can choose your different lists based on all these other things. You'll see, you can do it based on, spreadsheets, based on actual sources. And this is just like what percentage of like the smaller the percent, the more exact the match criteria is. So if you set it at 10%, the criteria is a little loose. If you set it at 1%, it's going to be really specific and they'll be really, really close to the people you're targeting. So that's just an example of what that looks like. Any questions before I move on from that? I'm going to show you more about the interest in demographic targeting when we create campaigns. Looks like we're good. Okay. So it's live demo time. Everybody get excited. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pull open. Now, they'll always give you an ad account attached to your name. I think it's really silly. I don't know why they do it, but it exists and that's a thing. But this is a really great way for me to be able to actually demo what it looks like to create an account or to create a campaign. So we're just going to go ahead and press the create button. In here, there's all these different objectives to choose from. I'm going to say for us, like as a really good example, I'm going to say, why don't we go for leads? Let's go for leads because we want people signing up for classes, subscribing to our blogs, and doing stuff that's really valuable. So when we're in here, you can go ahead and choose the recommended settings. This is a fine option to do. You can also just manually create this campaign. I'm going to do this so you guys can see all the steps involved. So you can give it a name. You can categorize your ads here as well. But basically, if you promote any of this stuff, you know, there's just like special rules you have to follow. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, no, this is not for any of those things. Do you do any of these? No. Do you do any of these special things? No. Do you do any of these special things? No. Lovely. So no politics, no housing, no credit, stuff like that. Lovely. So if there's any categories to declare, social issues, housing, employment, credit cards, there's just rules that you have to do those things really equitably. So some of the features you just won't have. When we talk about your campaign details, so the objective is going to be leads. The auction type is, the buying type is auction. That's just the way we're going to leave those settings as they are. So you can choose your credit spending limit. You can set a limit here of the total campaign spend. You can also choose to create an A/B test or any of these options here. But basically, when we go in here, let's set this for leads and let's leave all of this fairly basic. I don't have a pixel attached to this random personal ad account. So some of these things you'll see in here when you go to set up your actual campaign objective. When you use that automatic event tagging tool, you'll be able to see things like, how do we, if we're going to set this for people specifically signing up for a class, then you'll see that sign up button here as an option to optimize these campaigns for. So that's the basics of this. When we go ahead into our next section, you can see some of the specific things that you'd like people to do. You can choose your Facebook page. You can choose whether you'd like the number of conversions, number of leads. You can set a target cost per result. I don't, because I find that it's better to just start and see where we can go from there. The main thing that I want to make sure you guys are aware of, daily versus lifetime budget. You can set a spend per day or a spend for the entire lifetime of the campaign, at which point you want to make sure you set an end date. Beyond that, audience controls. That's the next really exciting thing I want to show you. So when we look at options, you can go ahead and set all these different demographics. You can include, you can exclude, you can change your location and get really, really detailed. So like I said, if you're teaching physical classes in a physical space, go ahead and make sure that that's really, really restricted there. If you're not, I highly recommend just keeping it to the US or whatever country you actually reside in. That's going to be the easiest way to make sure, at least in the very beginning, you have a very low rate of spam coming through. So in here, with all these options, this is where you'll be able to find lots of details. So this is your locations, but you can also see lots of information in here about like interests that people have, demographics, geographics, all that stuff is available in here. And then beyond that, you'll go through creating an actual ad. And this is where you'll put, your creative and all your different things. So we'll talk about this very, very briefly. You've got your primary text, you've got your headline, your description is optional. It's not going to show up everywhere. So what you need is you need your image, you need your headline, and you need at least one piece of primary text. That's just like the post copy that's just going to show up there. And that, I think, in the interest of time, is where I'm going to leave that overview and take a couple of these questions. So in our ad copy, what are some wellness-related words we should avoid? Since they're forbidden by Facebook. Some of these things that will get flagged, you can just go through and actually just ask for a manual review of them if you're not actually breaking any of the policies. It's the same thing with your Google advertising. Sometimes they'll flag things. But basically, when you're talking about wellness-related words, what you don't want to do is talk about them as a solution to a personal health issue. So as long as you're careful about that, you should be able to say like, okay, go ahead and please review this manually. I'm trying to think if there's any specific terminology I use. I mean, really, like at the end of the day, like if you're teaching, for example, a yoga class focused on like back pain, for example, you just want to be really careful about presenting your class as like a medicinal approach to that pain. You can state it more as general facts, like, hey, did you know that gentle yoga is recommended for this, that, and the other type of back pain? Here's a class that we have that you can try. But yeah, it can be a little bit complicated. And I would say like that really specific piece depends a lot. Oh, sure. One of your personal ads focused on the word heal. Yeah. You should be able to win an appeal for that as long as you don't have, as long as you're not talking about a specific health condition. But it is complicated. It is really complicated. Especially when your first couple of appeals are done by robots. Often they can just waste a ton of your time getting flagged over and over again. Okay, strategically, do you find that ads towards free stuff are much cheaper and more effective than ads towards paid stuff? Now, this is a really good question. I find that, when we're talking about what's more effective, it might differ a little bit for everybody. It might change a little bit depending on the specifics of the situation. I would say it's always going to be really inexpensive to get people to go to your website. It's going to be really inexpensive to get them to take a free thing. But my big thing that I would talk to you about when we're talking about how to measure performance, we probably will run out of time to go super in depth on this, but when we talk about what makes sense is I want you to first start by focusing on why are you running these ads and how are they touching the bottom line of your business. So while it may be much more, it may be cheaper and you may get a ton of people doing an action that is downloading a lead magnet or getting on your mailing list, that's great. But I would think about what the conversion rate is from those lead magnet downloads and from that mailing list. Like, what is the rate at which you can get people who are in that state converted into your paid customers? Because yes, it may be that it costs you $12 to get someone to download your lead magnet or sign up for your mailing list. That's great. But if it costs you $60 to turn them into a paid customer, and that's going to generate positive return on your investment in the ads, I would focus on the thing that's going to generate return. It's easy to get hung up in metrics that aren't things that actually touch the bottom line of your business, but I would just try to stay laser focused on things that actually generate revenue for you. With a brick and mortar location, our target client is 5 to 10 miles from our location. Do you still recommend all the US? Absolutely not. If you've got a brick and mortar location and your target client lives right in near you, I would say go ahead and shrink that geographic location right down to that 10 miles within your store. But I would then just make sure that, so here's a little thing that I'll show you when you're creating your audience. So you'll see this audience definition key right here. If you go too broad or too specific, it'll flag and let you know that you're not going to see great performance. This is a really good guideline that's going to help make sure you've made the right choice. So if your area is fairly small, 5 to 10 miles of your location, this guide right here at the ad group level, this is going to show you a lot of really useful information. So when you build that campaign and you set that geographic area, it might tell you, hey, you should remove some of your other criteria. Like if you say, I want people who are 24 to 37 years old who live within 5 miles of here, and they also have this interest, maybe you live in a populated enough area for that to work and for that audience to be broad enough. But if you don't, it's going to show you right here. So your location criteria is going to be top number 1. And then beneath that, you can add and remove different criteria that are on your wish list to make sure that you're staying in the green here. You don't want to get overly specific or your ads will struggle to perform. Great question. Awesome. So let's see here. So the only other thing that I want to make sure we go through today is measuring and optimizing. So I'm going to just quickly show you where you can find some really neat data. I'm just going to pull up an account that is active and doing great work. So everyone prepare to be blown away by results on this. This is an e-commerce site, so they are selling things online. So our cost per result is spectacular. You may not see this level of efficiency when you're running ads for like classes and services. It'll look a little bit different. So when we look here and we think about how we want to analyze results, you can analyze them at the campaign level, at the ad set level. You can have more than one ad set inside of a campaign. And then at the specific ad level. So if we choose one campaign, we'll look at our retargeting campaign. We'll say, okay, here's the one ad set that's inside of that campaign. Let's go ahead and look at the ads that are inside of it. So there's several levels that you can use to look at that data. So when I start optimizing, I'm always going to start at the top and say, how's my campaign doing overall? So this cost per result is within my target. My frequency is a little bit high, so I know I don't want to spend much more on this because I don't want to show this ad to people more than this many times, right? So we know our spend is kind of at the limit of what we want to do. We can see overall how many purchases it's generated. Impressions, that's the number of eyeballs you're getting. That's how many times that ad is shown. Clicks, fairly self-explanatory. Cost, CPM, cost per 1,000 impressions. That's just an easier way to see that information. You can see your cost per click and your click-through rate, as well as all that other stuff. So these are the top level metrics. Again, it's easy to get hung up on vanity metrics. All I want you to stay focused on is this touching the bottom line of your business and creating return on your investment, right? So don't sweat the small stuff. If you're having trouble getting it to perform and it's not meeting your performance standards on your actual return on your investment, that's when you can start to dig into those smaller numbers and see, well, why? So, for example, if this said $87.50, like, whoa, that's way out of line for what I wanted to see here. Let's think about why. Well, the first place I would go is look at this top level and see, well, is the cost per impression too high? Maybe I need to loosen up my audience criteria because the more specific, the more expensive it is to show. Is our cost per click high? Well, does that mean people aren't clicking through to it at a good rate? That could be a problem. So then maybe I need to update my ad creative or I need to work on my copy. So start high level, think about that. And then you can dig into your specific ads and you can say, okay, is there anything that's performing the way that I want it to? Now, this campaign is going really well, so there's probably not anything in here that isn't good. But when we're thinking about this, like if I saw something that was like, this is $42 per purchase, well, that's throwing off my average. So if I've got enough creative in here, I would go ahead and just shut that one off if it's not doing well and let the rest of the ones take the wheel. If as an overall thing, none of them are meeting your performance standard, then you know it's something more holistic. You probably need to revisit your copy and your ad creative and see what you can do to help make sure that it's, let's go back to our ad creative checklist. Super clear with a call to action, simple, matches your website, strong attention grabbing headline, limit your text, focus on the imagery and video, make sure you've got the right sizes available so it looks really good in the placements. And if you've got an eye-catching color in your brand palette, focus on that. So when we're looking at it, those are the things that I would start to look for and try to fix these ads one at a time. Those would be, we're kind of verging into optimization idea territory, but that's how I would measure performance from the top down to the more specifics. When we talk about optimization ideas, just a quick list to get you started. Creative changes, headlines, text, imagery, all that stuff is great. Think about your landing page. Once you get them to your website, does it tell them what to do? Does it make it easy? Does it show them a really clear path? Is your CTA on your actual website as clear as it is in your ad? You maybe want to talk about your conversion events. I know we had a question earlier about, should I optimize my campaign for downloading a lead magnet? Or should I optimize my campaign for actually making a purchase and signing up for a class? This is a great place to have that conversation with yourself. If it's not meeting performance standard, Mix it up, try it out. Otherwise, tweak and replace your audiences. Change your retargeting window. Narrow and widen your interests or your demographics or even your geographics if that's an option for you. But that's just a basic list of things you can try. And that pretty much covers everything that I had to show. If there's any more questions, we can take them.
I have a couple of questions, Megan.
Let's hear it.
So I have like a really small yoga business. So I usually, and I'm kind of lazy with my socials, right? Because I work as well. And then I'm like, oh, I should post something. So I guess my first question would be, is it worth boosting a post? Because they're always suggesting, do you want to boost this post? Is it worth doing that? And I tend to like run a little ad when I'm doing an offering. So my offering that I advertise, excuse me, is yoga for pelvic floor. So I can get
Sure.
quite specific in the targeting with
Mhm.
who I want to target for that. But is it worth like advertising the business as well, like running ads periodically instead of just running for an offering? How many times do people want to hear about my business, in your
That's a
opinion?
fantastic question. So first part, is it worth boosting a post? I wouldn't. You can always take that post and bring it into your actual ad account and run it there. But if you run it just as a boosted post, you can't use a CTA, you can't drive traffic to your site. Things just really change. All it can do is really drive following and engagement for your social media profile. If you wanted to touch the bottom line of your business and you just really love that post, bring that post into your ad account and run it there. You've got much more control and you can get results and you can do more stuff with it. But the part B, how often to run ads and what to do, part of this is going to depend on your budget. I work with a lot of small businesses, so sometimes limitation in budget is the thing that makes these ads not always run. But I would break that down to the very basic concept of your marketing funnel. So you've got the top of your funnel, the middle of your funnel, and the bottom of your funnel. It's shaped like a funnel, like this, right? So the top of your funnel, way out here, this is where the most people are going to get in contact with your brand. The goal there is brand awareness and making sure that the people who are your ideal customer have heard of you before the need arises for whatever it is that you're offering, right? The middle of the funnel, it starts to narrow a bit. It's kind of right here. So when people are talking about that point, that's when they're starting to understand what their problem is and they're looking at solutions. So maybe they're looking at your class, maybe they're looking at other classes, maybe they're looking at, supplements or, other types of workout tools and other types of things they can use to solve their problem. That's in that comparison stage. The bottom of the funnel, that final stage of the funnel, that's the most narrow and the smallest pool of people you have. Those are people who are ready to convert. So I would say if growth is the goal, if you want to really consistently grow, it typically does take advertising or at least marketing activity, period, for that top of funnel brand awareness and for that middle of funnel part where they're considering what their options are. So brand awareness and education comes before conversion for most people. That may be a fairly quick process that people get through, but I would focus on, at least at a small budget, if you can afford it, having that perennial presence, because it's really going to help you keep that funnel full so that when you do have these events you're running, you go ahead and run that ad. It's the bottom of the funnel when people are ready to convert. Your funnel will already be full of people and you'll have much more success and efficiency getting those people to sign up for those classes.
Oh, that's great advice. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, to echo what Christine's saying in the comments, it has been a fantastic session. I feel like we could bring you back and have like a whole other deep dive.
Yeah, there are so many. Yeah, if you get feedback and you collect some information about what people would like to dive deeper into, when you do these basic surveys, you can only scratch the surface of all this stuff. But number one, if you find more questions that lots of people are asking, send them to me. I'm always happy to answer a few more. But number two, yeah, if there's big demand for a certain topic in here, if people really want to dig into audiences or even ad copy, we got a lot of ad copy questions, and that's not something I had presented a lot of information on. If that becomes something that people want to talk about, by all means, yeah, let's dig into it again later.
Yeah, this was cool. So yes, everyone, let us know what you want to learn from with Megan, and we'll share all of your business information and contact information in the replay email as well, Megan, so people can follow Scratch Consulting. And yeah, we're really grateful
Definitely
for
do.
this.
We are a great follow. We share lots of marketing tips and tricks and really get into the weeds of it sometimes. So do follow us on Instagram. We do a lot of content there.
Awesome. Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you so much. And thank you, Elena, for being here too. And thank you as well, Megan, for making such a success of the offering tree ads too.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
love
you're
them.
welcome. You're a great client.
So
Awesome.
thanks everyone for being here. If you have any questions, you can always follow up. We're going to send out a replay email in a couple of hours. I expect we should have that ready for you, and you can always reply to that email if you get it. If you're here for a replay and you ever want to learn more about Offering Tree, just contact us at hello@offeringtree.com, and we'll send out all the links, the slide deck, a link to sign up for Offering Tree and get a great discount from today's webinar. Oh, what is your Instagram account? Do you want to shout that out, Megan?
Yes, absolutely. It's
Oh,
just
you did
at
it.
Scratch Consulting.
Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect.
And yeah, you can DM us, follow us, and definitely interact with our content there.
Fantastic. Okay, people, good luck with your ads. Let us know how you get on. This was awesome. Thank you, Megan.
Awesome.
Take care.